Welcome everyone. This is our Beatport webinar for artists and labels. We're just waiting for everyone to arrive so we can get started. But as we wait, I'd love to know where everyone is tuning in from. You can let us know in the chat here. Just should be at the bottom of your screen for Zoom. So yeah, curious where everybody's at. I'm coming to you from Berlin. Nice, you got someone from Chicago.
Chicago.
All right. All right, wow. Worldwide, New Zealand, worldwide. UK, US, France, Belgium. Awesome.
That's amazing.
Cool, super happy to have everybody here today. And yeah, if any of you are new to our webinar series, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel after this to check out our most recent webinars on Spotify and Deezer for artists and labels. A lot of useful information on there in terms of Spotify, getting the most out of the platform, and Deezer. Many of you might know Deezer if you're in Europe, but it might be new to people in the US. Very international platform, and we really kind of give you the ins and outs of each platform and what you can get from it from a DIY independent artist standpoint. So my colleagues backstage are going to link those in the chat, but we'll be sure to share those afterwards as well. And obviously, we're going to be covering a lot of topics today, but if there's anything specific you guys would like us to answer throughout the webinar, feel free to drop that in the chat as well. All right, well, yeah, it looks like a fair amount of people are here, so let's get started. So I'm Nick. I'm a marketing manager here at iMusician. I'm responsible for building and growing the iMusician community and supporting our community of independent artists. And before joining iMusician, I've had 5 years of experience working in the music industry in the US, and I graduated university with a degree in music business. And I'm super happy to share my passion for helping independent musicians with the iMusician community through tools like this webinar and collaborations with like-minded teams like Beatport. So on that note, again, I'm super happy to have Steve from Beatport on board with us today, and I'll hand it over to him so he can introduce himself here as well.
Hey, Nick, thank you for the warm welcome, and hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the webinar, Beatport webinar today. My name is Steve Mill. I'm working for Beatport as an artist and industry relations manager. I've been into electronic music, house music, for the biggest part of my life, for more than 15 years now. Along my managerial profile, I'm also an independent artist. I'm writing and producing and DJing house music. And I'm here to share my lights with you regarding Beatport and how to best use the platform, and also listen to your questions along with Nick and help you understand how the product works. So Nick, over to you, and I guess we can move forward.
Yeah, definitely. So as you can probably see in the chat, we are joined backstage by my colleagues Suzanne and Lucas, who are here to answer any of your questions as we move through the webinar. Cora and Jordan here as well. And yeah, again, drop your questions in the chat, or if you're on Facebook, leave a comment on Facebook. If you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, leave a comment and we'll get back to you there. But we'll also be sticking around at the end of this for a Q&A session to wrap things up and cover anything that we didn't cover already, going through everything. So for those of you who are new to iMusician, we are an online music distributor created by and for independent musicians. We got our start all the way back in 1999 when our co-founder and COO, Toby Verts, founded the electronic music label SOG Records. And shortly after, in 2002, Toby met his friend Shigs, our CEO and fellow co-founder, and he came on as the label manager as they found their way through the music industry. They're basically working out of their attic, helping out their friends via this small label. And a few years later, in 2010, they decided to create iMusician to help independent artists and labels find success in the music industry, mainly starting with digital music distribution. But in addition to digital music distribution, we help indie artists and labels with online mastering and monetization on YouTube through YouTube's Content ID system. Our mission, and basically we're here because we work every day to help indie artists in their career, either through our products, advice via digital guides and articles on our blog, or like today through tools like this webinar. So we're a community of over 200,000 artists and labels, some of whom are probably here with us today. And we distribute on streaming download platforms around the world like Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, and are one of the only distributors to distribute to electronic music stores like Beatport, which is why we are here today and why we have Steve with us. So Beatport offers many features for artists to take control of their music on the platform and to integrate Beatport into their overall development strategy. And for artists today, it's really not as simple as releasing music and waiting for it to be discovered and added to playlists and charts. As many of you know, playlists are very important with getting noticed and building your fan base, but all of these steps need to be integrated into a comprehensive Beatport specific strategy to build, understand, and develop a community of followers using all the tools that Beatport has to offer and makes available to you. So I know all this might sound like a lot when your main focus is making music, but that's why we're here. We're here to break it down for you. And I'm going to cover a lot of points here today along with Steve, but the main things we'll do is we'll give you an introduction to Beatport and its importance for artists and labels. We'll touch on Beatport's latest products, which are really exciting, Beatport Hype and Beatport Link. We'll show you how to distribute your music to Beatport, but also how to register your label with Beatport, which is key in terms of getting on the platform. We'll show you how to claim and personalize your artist and label profile on Beatport. We'll also give you examples of the possibilities that Beatport offers artists to gain more visibility and new followers. And finally, we'll dive into the heart of the matter of how to make money, and it's diving into artist services and publishing within the Beatport platform. So covering a lot, but as I said earlier, if there's anything or any questions pop up for you, just drop them in the chat and Steve or I will answer them, or my colleagues backstage will dive into that as well. So again, before you dive in, we recently came out with a Beatport guide that's up on our website. It's a huge tool to go along with this webinar. It's basically a primer for music projects at any level, regardless of your experience with Beatport, and is a really nice complement to keep by your side along with this webinar or to use after the fact. So for anyone who wants to learn more and go a little bit deeper, I encourage you to check it out or bookmark it for later. My colleagues backstage are going to share it in the chat here. Again, if you're on Facebook, it'll be in the comments, or if you're on YouTube, you can check it out there. But with that said, let's dive right in, and I will pass the mic to Steve to kick things off with an intro to Beatport.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. So what is Beatport? For those of you who don't know, Beatport is an electronic music online store owned by the parent company called Lifestyle. Beatport has been around for more than 16 years now, since 2004 when it was founded. And the mission has remained the same since then. It is to serve the unique needs of the music community with world-class products and services that inspire and connect the landscape of creators, DJs, and fans. Today, Beatport remains the recognized industry leader for the DJ community, with a global footprint of over 36 million unique users, 465,000 DJ customers, 11 million curated tracks on the store, and 75,000 label partnerships, direct label partnerships. The company has offices around the world with presence in various cities, including Denver, Berlin, LA, London, and a lot of remote teams across Europe, like Greece, where I'm currently based myself, Bosnia. We have teams in newly set up teams in Mexico, India, Russia, and we keep expanding. This is basically what Beatport is. It's a company that keeps developing, and the growth is exponential, I must say. For the last 5 years I've been on the company. And maybe we can start by diving deeper into the products slowly. Maybe we can talk about Beatport Hype, which is the product, one of the products that Nick mentioned a few minutes ago. Beatport Hype is a product that was developed 3 years ago, more or less. And the purpose of it was to give the opportunity for smaller labels and artists to be discovered. Up until now, Beatport's charts, banners, and new release sections have been dominated by the upper echelon of talent. This made it really difficult for smaller labels to an artist to shine through, and it was difficult for the customers as well to dig deep and find the music that is not dominating the charts. So that's how Beatport Hype was conceived. Beatport Hype provides you with the ultimate discovery platform for new and innovative music. As a label, you can pay a monthly fee and compete amongst the hype labels pool, the labels that don't make higher than a certain threshold of revenue, given that they are relatively new and whose content has not been discovered yet. In that way, it's easier for you as a label to have your music charting in the hype top 10, since you're no longer competing with the whales of the genre. So it's basically creating a new pool, a new chart within the genre itself that allows people that are of a lower revenue to shine through and have the music charting and discovered. That also gives the opportunity, basically the company has created a dedicated space for featured releases regarding hype. Nick, if we can go back, I just wanted to add something on the hype section. Hype, basically, there are additional slots on the genre pages that are used only for hype content, like banners dedicated for hype labels, new release spots for hype labels, etc., etc. So hype overall is a great tool for newly set up labels or new artists to allow their music to be discovered. I think we can move forward to the next product, just to give a quick overview about Beatport Link. Beatport Link is a streaming service for DJs that makes Beatport's catalog available to stream into Link subscription-enabled devices. It's currently available on Serato, Rekordbox, Traktor, Denon DJ, amongst others. And basically, it allows people to, after they create playlists on the store through their user account, it allows them to access those playlists and that content through the software we just mentioned. And in that way, this gives a great opportunity for Beatport Link to be a very good practice tool for DJs to practice their music, DJing, and skills at home, or sometimes in the club as well. Subscribers can do full track playbacks in 128 kilobps quality. They can create unlimited playlists and do as many re-downloads as they want from their past purchases, which is the cloud service, as we call it. And it's truly amazing. I was very chuffed to be able to access the purchases I did 15 years ago personally. In addition, of course, they can use the features provided by their software and hardware setups, depending on what software or hardware they use. Rekordbox, Denon DJ, etc., etc. The full Beatport Link Pro service is included with the Beatport Link Pro subscription. And on top of all the previous features, it includes a higher quality of playback to 56 kilobps AAC, and the offline locker storage, which is a recently added feature which allows you to have offline access of up to 1,000 tracks in this quality, which, if you ask me, it makes it possible to play in the club or in the bar or wherever you want while offline by accessing those tracks. So basically, that's an overview of Beatport Link and how it works and what it offers. And maybe we can move forward to the next slide and Nick can take over about how to distribute music to Beatport.
Sure. Yeah, so obviously really exciting stuff and products coming from Beatport in terms of kind of the future of DJing, and you can see where streaming is starting to come into effect with DJing at home or in the clubs and being able to test out different tracks. And obviously the implications for someone distributing their music on Beatport are huge there in the terms of being able to have your music discovered and testing it out in different DJ sets. And we'll come back to that later in terms of more music discovery. But for now, how to get your music on Beatport in order to show up on these products. So if you're an artist or an independent label, you're going to require the services of a digital distributor like iMusician, which will be responsible for performing quality control of your content to meet the requirements of Beatport, as well as helping you register your label on Beatport. But normally to sell music on Beatport, artists need to provide label managers with a 6-month release schedule, plus their promotion and marketing initiatives, evidence of an established online presence, such as a label website, Facebook page, SoundCloud, or mailing list, or things of that nature, a repertoire of relevant artists and remixers, and DJ testimonials and support for previous releases and promotions. But not all musicians can meet these strict distribution requirements, so that's where iMusician comes in. We can deal directly with Beatport to give you and your label the credibility and support to ensure smooth distribution of your music. And a note here is that registering a label is required in order to get your music on Beatport. So all you need to do is send us an email and fill out a short form within your iMusician dashboard to start the process. This way you can kind of skip all those bullet points that I mentioned earlier about the support and kind of all the upfront kind of backing within the community that you'd normally need. It's a lot easier for going through iMusician if you're an independent kind of startup or DIY label. You can kind of forego those processes and go straight to releasing music. So once you submit your request for your label, or our artist and label team will review all of your data and notify you via email when everything is in order. So once approved, your request will be sent to Beatport and your label should be live in up to about 4 weeks. And in case you don't have a label or the time to create one, you can always use iMusician's free label, iMelectronica, when choosing the label in the release process. So iMusician is one of the only music distributors that gets your music on Beatport without an extra fee, catches, or hidden costs. There's no startup fee, no yearly fee, no charge for barcodes or ISRCs, and you can cancel at any time. So if you're new to iMusician and you want to give us a try, you can kind of see the benefits of getting started and really kind of getting your feet underneath you in order to get your music on these platforms and start to build out your audience. So to that point, all you really need to get started are your wave audio files, your cover art in good quality, and your metadata, such as track titles, copyrights, and the names of your contributors. That's really all you need. And from there, you're all set to submit your release to Beatport and other platforms. But that said, be sure to keep in mind that each platform has a different set of requirements and guidelines for releases, which is why distributors like iMusician run a quality check on your files before release to ensure that releases will be distributed and accepted by all platforms. And if you're interested in diving into some of the specifics, we're going to share an article in the chat that includes a checklist for everything you need for your release. So if you're kind of curious where to get started, just keep this checklist by your side as you go through your release and you will be good to go. So if you do that, you'll kind of avoid these delays and it'll make it easier on our quality assurance team and yourself. So if you want to stick to these guidelines or the release dates that you have in mind for your promotion schedule, it's best to kind of go through step by step on this checklist. And another thing, it kind of seems like a simple topic, but when you're selecting your artist name, this can be a tricky thing with Beatport or any other platform. So it's good to go through and do a deep dive to make sure that your name isn't already used by another artist. We've seen this before, and it is a huge pain for artists when they kind of build out their brand and then all of a sudden down the road discover that someone else is using their exact name and their songs show up on their profile. So in order to avoid this problem with Beatport or any other platform, here's one suggestion that we have. For instance, we'll use Steve here as an example, but if you choose an artist name such as Steve Mill, and there's another Steve Mill out there, when you distribute your music to Beatport, your music will show up within this other artist platform. Obviously, you don't want this. So one of these workarounds that we suggest here is adding the country abbreviation behind it, such as Steve Mill UK. So this basically gives our system and Beatport system a way to create a new artist entity and separate the creative work that way. Obviously not the most ideal situation. It's best to do the deep dive before getting started so that you can separate yourself with an original artist name, but it tends to happen, and a lot of people in the DJ community do go by their names, and this kind of commonality tends to happen. So this is a workaround that you'll see when you dive into Beatport. You'll see this kind of country abbreviation on a lot of different artist names. So it's really not that bad of a workaround if that's the route that you need to go. But yeah, again, be careful. Just something to note when you're getting started. So at this point, if your music is on Beatport, what are the next steps? So before I dive in, I'd love to know how many of you are familiar with promoting your music with Beatport. My colleagues backstage are going to drop a poll in the chat right here so that you can let us know, and we can kind of take it from there. All right, good to see that we can we can be helpful here with diving into how to promote yourself and build things out. Looks like some of you have some experience, some a little bit, but yeah, happy that everyone is is here to get a little bit more of a primer on this topic. So yeah, I think we can go ahead and move forward from here. And yeah, so I'll let Steve take over from here on how to personalize your artist and label profile on Beatport and kind of give you a rundown. We'll do a screen share of his personal profile so that we can give you an idea of what to expect, how everything's going to look on your end, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Thank you, Nick.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an artist profile. This is my artist profile. You can see all good, Nick, right? As you can see, this profile has an artist picture and a bio, which you can extend by clicking this arrow. This is essential for the good look of the artist profile. The artist profile needs to have a landscape picture. The exact dimensions will be shared with you at some point later. But as long as the picture is a landscape, then we can utilize it and attach it to the profile. And you can be creative. It's always important to include the actual artist face or presence. We wouldn't recommend including logos or, you know, irrelevant pictures. We would say that the best use here would be to show the actual artist, person, performer. And a biography. The biography can be up to 2,000 characters. It's good to be descriptive of what you're doing, give an overview of who are you as an artist, or be as detailed as you want when it comes to your work. We wouldn't recommend including social media links. Obviously, we don't want people to go out of the store, so we wouldn't like, it's not recommended to use links of other platforms in here. Just an artist biography that will say pretty much everything about you, or as much as possible at least. This is the classic artist profile and how it looks. If we had to see a label profile from here, let's, for example, click to this label here called Simples. This is actually my label. It's pretty new. You see it includes a label logo. In this case, the label logo is square. We don't want a landscape picture here. Biographies unfortunately cannot show on label profiles. This is something we're currently working on. At some point, we will be able to add another section for that. But apparently at the moment, we don't have a biography for label profiles. But the best thing you can do for your label is to definitely upload a picture so that it has a good look when customers are landing on the label page. Going back to the artist profile, I don't know if there is anything we can add, Nick. I think we've covered pretty much everything here.
Yep, I think that's a pretty. There's no need to overthink it too much.
Yeah,
Obviously, just kind of a simple rundown of how to build things out, and you can see with Beatport, it makes it really visually appealing. So it's important to grab kind of an eye-catching photo, and yeah, you have a lot of space to really tell people who you are and give a rundown of the type of music that you produce. So it's really kind of an electronic press kit in a way, for ways to pitch yourself to a label, or yeah, just make yourself visible. So definitely recommend taking advantage of that space.
absolutely. I've stopped sharing my screen now.
Yeah. And again, yeah, I think in terms of like how to personalize your label, we can kind of do a rundown of what you need, which you can see. Yeah, really just email, supplier name, your label name. Again, back to the thing, if you don't have your label or the time to build one, you can use iMusician's label, I'm Electronica. Here you have your Beatport URL, an image 500 by 500. All of this stuff is kind of part of the package that you should start putting together when you're starting to build yourself out as an artist or a label, because a lot of platforms will request a lot of this similar information. So if you build out your EPK or electronic press kit, or just have a folder of all of this stuff on your computer, it makes it really helpful for getting started and just building out your presence so that you have a cohesive vision of who you are and how you represent yourself on all these platforms. And when you're done with the info requested on all of this stuff, how to optimize your page, obviously just hit submit at the end to complete it and send it to Beatport's team. So from there, then you'll be set. And yeah, like you saw with Steve's page, you'll have a really visually appealing kind of easy to share link that you can send around when you're pitching your music to different labels or trying to get records signed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's essential to have a good look, I would say. And people don't usually count much on this, but it's definitely a must. And people would be surprised that even bigger artists here at Beatport, we have to chase them sometimes to optimize their profiles on the platform. Yeah. So
Yeah.
moving forward, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, basically once you have your artist profile built out and you kind of have the groundwork laid for moving forward with Beatport, it's basically comes down to how do you promote your music once it's on there, and how do you get noticed? How do you get this DJ support? How do you get plays out? So for labels to pitch their music to Beatport, they have to initiate the process through the distributor, and each distributor has a different way of accepting the information and passing it over to Beatport. So Steve, I don't know if you can elaborate here on kind of the first steps for getting started with Beatport.
Yeah, promoting your music. I mean, as you said, each distributor has a different process. Normally, a label fills in a form with the release information and all the marketing material they have acquired, like DJ support, playlisting, radio plays, etc., and sends it to the distributor. It's good to have that information well in advance. We usually say 6 to 8 weeks. That would be ideal. But as you would probably think, labels usually do, a lot of labels and artists do things last minute. But if we manage to have all the information like this 6 to 8 weeks in advance, then that's great. And it gives us a lot of lead time to prepare the work from our side. So as I said, the distributor collects all priority releases that have been pitched to them by labels, and sends all that information to Beatport. And then Beatport goes through the list of priority releases and provides feedback, to the distributor, who then communicates back to the label with the result of the pitch. A lot of people don't know that, but Beatport does have a curation team. The content that you see on the store doesn't get featured automatically or show up automatically. It is selected by people. So the curation team decides what gets featured on the store. The curation team is the last point of the last point where the information lands, and then they decide what gets featured by combining factors like, who is the label, who is the artist, the history, the sales history of the label, the sales history of the artist, and of course, most importantly, their personal taste. That's the human factor in the whole process, which is quite important in the age we're living in, where everything is so digitized. So basically, yeah, that's how the releases end up being featured on Beatport. And that's how the communication flows between artist, label, distributor, retailer, and back. So over to you, Nick.
Yeah, cool. So basically it's acquiring as much marketing information as possible, such as DJ support, radio promo, blog promo, premieres. You can collaborate with people on YouTube for premiering your music. Really sending only the relevant information to Beatport is what's going to be helpful for you here. And the most important feedback should be listed first. If you get obviously radio play, big DJ supporting your track, or just release on YouTube supported by a big channel, you want to push that and get as much out of that as possible, because that is kind of how you get these stepping stones in terms of getting more promotion within the platform. So once you have all of that in order, you communicate that information directly to Beatport for consideration with the curation team, as Steve mentioned there. And they choose releases for features within their playlist. So we're going to share a link here in the chat where you can pitch your releases to Beatport. Again, as you can imagine, most artists are pitching their music to Beatport. So kind of temper your expectations here, but that is kind of the gist of it with a lot of platforms in terms of getting playlisted. So you need to get creative with ways of building relationships with radio DJs. You can do this with kind of internet radio DJs like Dublab in the US or NTS here in Europe. You can email people on YouTube for their YouTube channels. My colleague Lucas here on this runs his own YouTube channel if you want to hit him up. And basically build out this kind of Rolodex of people that you can hit up in order to build out the promo and kind of build out your support, because the more that you have, the easier it is for you to get noticed and the more credibility you have in terms of getting discovered by Beatport's curation team. So I'm sure a lot of you have dug into Beatport's store already. If you haven't, obviously check that out after this. But if you have, I'm sure you've seen Beatport's DJ charts. Obviously a good way to get recognized. This is another kind of avenue that you can curate relationships with DJs and promoters or anyone creating these charts. It's basically, I think you'd be surprised with how receptive a lot of DJs are if you just Instagram message them or hit them up via their website or their email. A lot of people are more receptive and easier to reach than you think. So highly recommend doing that. I recommend this with any other platform, kind of on Spotify playlists or Beatport playlists. Just reach out to people. I think you'd be surprised how many people will get back to you. But for DJ charts, these charts are user-generated content, meaning that users create them to highlight the music that they like, support, and play out when performing. And when the user is also an artist, the DJ charts can be linked to show up on their artist profile, which happens with the help of Beatport's artist team, who behind the scenes manually link the user profile with the artist profile so that every chart that user creates appears under the chart section of their artist profile. An important note here is that artists and labels cannot directly pitch their music for playlisting in the way they pitch releases for featuring, as the in-house playlists are edited by the aforementioned curation team and are not open for pitching music. Not like how with Spotify, you can pitch your music or release music and pitch directly to Spotify, however difficult that may be. But with Beatport, if you do get picked up, people can expect releases that have been featured to also be considered for playlisting on the various playlists within the Beatport store. So again, if you haven't checked this out, obviously not only a great way to get playlisted, but generally for music discovery within Beatport, which is what Beatport is great for. Dive into these DJ charts. I'm sure a lot of your favorite DJs are on there, and you can definitely discover a lot of things, especially with Beatport Link. This is kind of another interesting tie-in with that, is that you can test out these songs at home with Link as like a streaming-based kind of cloud platform, as opposed to bringing a USB around. So a lot of interesting elements coming into play with Link. So be tuned to what they have coming from there. And obviously, we could be here all day and do a whole webinar on promotion. So we won't go into too much detail here, but for more information on promotion and to plan your strategy over time, a good roadmap to follow is the infographic that my colleagues are going to share in the chat here, where we elaborate on each step of a release strategy. Basically, determine your level and your release date, and you'll find out all the steps you need to make your release a success. So a really useful tool that we've put together this past year, again, kind of along with that checklist that we mentioned earlier. If you keep these things by your side as you're going through and building out your release, definitely guarantee that it will help you along the way and allow you to kind of plan things out further. So as I mentioned earlier, it is a lot, but especially when you want to focus on music. But the more that you get out ahead of this stuff, the easier it is for you and the easier it is to plan this roadmap for success and promotion. So now that we've covered most of the basics here, your artist profile on Beatport, how to register your label, and hopefully you have released music on Beatport at this point. But let's move on to the heart of the matter here, which is your income as an artist or label. And I'll let Steve take over here again and cover artist services and publishing within Beatport.
Yeah, as you very correctly mentioned, people at the end of the day, they want to see the income. Obviously, it's very important for the artist to be able to be paid and make money out of their work. That requires a good relationship between the artist and the label, because the artist is going to be reported to by the label. The label is going to account to the artist, etc., etc. However, we as a store offer, just like as we offer a lot of opportunities to labels to showcase their work and show their profile to the world, we do the same thing to artists as well, directly. So my team is dealing directly with artists. We're constantly on the discovery mode, trying to find who is doing great work, who has potential to shine in the coming months or years, and we're trying to discover and develop talent. So with this exploration, we've come up with a good amount of features. My team is managing all those features. Features like the Artist of the Month, Instagram Live Q&A, cover story, introducing, playlist of the week, etc., etc. Every different feature that we're offering lives on, the majority of them live on Beatportal, which is our editorial website. This is where we have dedicated space for all these features, and the artists covered on the features. Instagram Live Q&A, for example, is a feature taking place on Instagram once a week. We invite an artist and we give them the opportunity to tell us about their work, to talk to their fans through our platform. And the following is great. We have other features like Beatport Studio Jams, where people can submit a quick clip, a short clip of them jamming in the studio, showing their work in the studio, how they produce, how they play the synths, how they work on the hardware, on the software, etc., etc. We have newly set up features as well, like TikTok Live Q&A, which is quite new. It's taking place on TikTok, which I'm personally not a big fan of, so I haven't really explored it much. But I don't know if you use it, Nick, but people love it, and it's building up quickly. So
definitely a good thing to keep your eye on, as it's becoming a more viable tool for musicians to be discovered. However inept we might be at using it, but
absolutely. But yeah, we've seen, as you said, that people use it more and more. People of our industry of electronic music use it more and more. So we've started doing the same live Q&A format that we've been doing on Instagram. We've started doing it on TikTok, and it's picking up. It's doing well. Another feature is tracks you might have missed, which is a weekly feature being published on Beatport every Friday, where curation is picking 5 to 7 tracks per genre that they think deserve some more light. And they talk about it, they do a little write-up about it, and we help them get in touch with the artist, and then we communicate back to the artist what curation picked for the artist to share. Numerous features, I mean, there are so many of them, we would need hours to sit down, discuss, and break them down and go through all of them. But all of these features have been made up in order to help the artist promote their work on the store and in the community in the best way possible. So that's a quick overview, as quick and inclusive as it can be regarding artist services managed by my team. A new exploration of our business is music publishing, which is a topic people don't usually touch in our kind of business because it's a little bit difficult to comprehend and understand. In a nutshell, if I can give a quick overview of what music publishing is basically the exploitation of the music work by public performance, through radio plays, through broadcast on TV, through plays at gigs. Labels, producers, artists, and songwriters are entitled to royalties when their music has been streamed, manufactured on vinyl, downloaded, mechanical royalties, for example. When the music is being played in radio and gigs, as I said earlier. We didn't have a service like this beforehand. We did partner up with Centric Electronic, which is a company based in the UK. They're a very big distributor focusing on electronic music. So we partnered up with them and we've created some packages of options for people that want to explore claiming their income on the publishing world. Packages flexible as like 1 month. People can enroll for a 28-day scheme where they can acquire some royalties, where they give the rights to Centric to acquire, to claim royalties on their behalf and account back to them. From packages as flexible as that up to packages more exclusive, from 1 year to 3 years, depending on the deal. Of course, it has to do with who the artist is, how much the artist and Centric wants to commit. And Beatport basically is the intermediate. It's making the referral, as we call it, between the artist and Centric. And the artist is getting exactly the same deal as if they would have gotten if they went directly to Centric. But with the benefit that the catalog is being transmitted automatically through the back end of the two companies, and the artist, if, for example, the artist has a huge catalog, they don't need to do any kind of registering on the Centric platform. So this partnership allows you to collect all this income globally from one online account, because Centric has numerous deals with PROs around the world. I hope we didn't confuse people with what music publishing is. I can see some questions popping up in the chat, maybe in the coming minutes, but that was an overview of artist services and music publishing, which is allowing people to exploit their work and make the most out of it. So yeah, I hope that has given a good overview of what it is. So Nick, over to you.
Yeah, sure. Again, as with promotion, we could do an entire webinar on publishing, and we just might. soon. So obviously with all the questions in the chat, it's a topic that is of interest to a lot of people in our community, and is a really important element of getting started and building out your brand, and how to kind of create a business out of finding a career in music. So obviously, if anybody has any more questions in regards to publishing, drop them in the chat here. That all flew by, but that brings us to the end of our kind of quick dive into Beatport today. Hopefully everyone is coming out of this with a better understanding of how to get the most out of Beatport, or at the very least, how to get started with Beatport and how to promote your music. But as again, we'll open up the floor here for some Q&A. If there's anything we can clarify, or if anyone has any questions you'd like us to answer, just drop them in the chat here on Zoom or in the Facebook comments. Again, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, drop them in the comments there and we'll get back to you. But yeah, let's take it from there. So I see a question from Gary on how to get streams on Beatport and radio airplay for new labels. So this kind of harks back to our promotion section that we were talking about earlier. It's really, if you're kind of starting from square zero here, it goes back to building that Rolodex of connections when you're building out a release. It is frustrating at times when you're just getting started and starting from scratch. It's difficult to kind of get the wheels turning. But again, you'd be surprised with how many people are receptive to new releases, whether that be internet radio, YouTube channels, or just reaching out to independent playlisters on Spotify or any other platform. So would definitely recommend kind of creating an Excel file or a Google Sheet of different contacts that come to mind, whether that be through any independent publications, magazines, radio stations that you listen to. You can just build that out, and it probably won't take you more than an hour to find contacts and have at least 20 or 30 people that you can kind of cold email and go from there. Obviously, it takes time building out and getting your career started here. So expect patience and persistence is key.
Nick, someone was asking how to chart on Beatport, which is quite an interesting question. A lot of people don't know that the charts that they see on Beatport are sales charts, yeah? So basically, in order to chart and appear on those charts, you have to achieve sales. They're not made up, they're not affected by us, they completely depend on sales. So this is how you chart on Beatport. I hope that has answered the question. I think it was Esteban. Jonathan.
So I see Simon, how do I access the back end to create my profile? Steve, can you elaborate on that one?
I think we communicated some links earlier in the chat with forms that people can use in order to send us their artist picture and artist biography. This is the best way that people can use in order to update their artist picture and artist biography. That's how you update your profile. You cannot access your artist profile through your user account on Beatport. It has to be done through this form. Yep, there you are, Lucas and Susan. They just sent a couple of forms. So basically, these are the forms that people can use to update their artist profile or label profiles.
Nice to see one from Craig. When is the best time to release on Beatport to get on charts? When is it updated?
The best release day that we recommend is Friday. Friday is also the day that we update the featured content on the store. So on Friday, if you go on the store on Friday, you will see the new featured content. I wouldn't recommend people to release music on Wednesdays, Thursdays, or Tuesdays, because the main work of curation takes place on Fridays. Curation and Beatport in extent, we want to have the content available in our hands on Fridays so we can update the store, create the playlist, etc., etc. So the best day to release music in order to have the biggest chances of being featured on the store is Friday. The time doesn't matter, obviously. I don't think you can, some distribute, I don't know if people can actually choose the time. I'm not really sure about that, but the day is definitely Friday. Jonathan says, did you say it's good to send music to Beatport 6 to 8 weeks in advance? Yeah, 6 to 8 weeks in advance is the best time frame that gives us you know, enough time to schedule things from our side. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a lot of time in advance. I mean, but that's the best time, that lead time that allows us to do our work from our side.
Yeah, Steve, maybe you can clarify if that's 6 to 8 weeks in advance once the music is out, or
Yeah,
yeah.
6 to 8 weeks in advance of release date.
Nice. So I see a question from Stefan is if the genre of my release is wrong initially and it gets changed after the release is public, does it still get seen by the Beatport content team?
Yeah, basically people have the ability to choose their genre, the genre of their work. But we don't live in an ideal world. Some people hear the music and they think it's something a little bit different. So curation team at the end of the day change the genres according to what they think is best. So there are genres obviously that are quite similar to each other, but it's in the discretion of curation team to change the genre according to what they think is best in order to achieve the maximum sales on the store.
Nice. I see another one from Gary on how do you get onto playlists or contact those who make them? I would go back to kind of what I was saying about building out that Rolodex again. Contrary to like what with Spotify, you can pitch directly to Spotify's playlist, which is why you see artists releasing kind of single after single after single, because it gives them more opportunities to pitch each one of those to a playlist. Like we mentioned earlier with Beatport, you can't submit songs directly to the playlist, but with the DJ charts, those are independently curated. So as with independent Spotify curators, I would recommend doing the same thing with Beatport. You can reach out to DJs directly with releases. A lot of DJs out there tend to field requests for people to play their music out anyways. So it's really not that out of the blue. And again, yeah, I think you'd be surprised with how many people get back to you. And that's a great way to get the ball rolling and a creative way to get playlisted in an ever crowded space there.
Selma asked an interesting question that I think would interest a lot of people in the chat. We talked about Beatport Hype earlier. Beatport Hype is not eligible for all genres on the store. Beatport Hype is eligible for the top 10 genres of the store plus a few more. I think overall, if I'm not mistaken, it's 14 genres. There is a breakdown, a list of all the hype eligible genres on this link that I'm going to put on the chat, and people can have a look and see if the genre of music they release is eligible for hype. And yeah, I saw a lot of people asking if other genres of music would be relevant for the store. Of course, iMusician allows this music to be delivered, but I wouldn't say that we would help push any music that is not electronic, you know, so rock music or any other genre of music that is not electronic, it's not really relevant for us. It can come on the store through the iMusician distribution, but it's not really relevant for us, if that makes sense.
Cool. I see a question from Jonathan. I believe this was answered earlier in the chat, but is going through Centric the only way to collect royalty plays from Beatport? You mentioned that you've seen TuneCore using Centric as well. So yeah, Centric is for collecting publishing rights and royalties, and it is the best selection or solution for Beatport. You also receive your master rights royalties directly from your distributor through distributors like iMusician. So those are basically the two types of music royalties that you'd be dealing with. But yeah, Jonathan, if that doesn't clarify, please let us know in the chat, and we'd be happy to dive a little further into that. Esteban, iMusician does distribute on TrackSource as well as Juno Download. So if you're looking to cover all your bases in terms of distributing to the big electronic platforms like Beatport, TrackSource, and Juno. Yeah, definitely recommend checking us out if you haven't already signed up. You can sign up for free to check out our offerings. And yeah, I believe we were linked earlier, but yeah, my colleagues can link you here as well. Pio asks, will there be any new features that will be added to iMusician in the next year? Yes, absolutely. Stay tuned. We have some really exciting things coming for 2022. And I see Jonathan asking about the future of Beatport. Steve, I don't know if you can elaborate on what Beatport has coming for 2022 as well.
A lot. We recently acquired Loopmasters, and we doubled up in size. So we're going to be offering new products. We're not only going to be serving the DJ community, we're going to be serving the producers community. We're envisioning a future where people will have DJing in the epicenter of music creation and music taste making. We want to inspire and promote the DJ inside every person. We want everyone to be able to think and feel as a DJ and try out this form of art. So the future of Beatport is bright. The company is going from strength to strength, and we have a roadmap of very interesting products coming out later next year.
So I see Esteban asking, how difficult is it to switch distributors, such as switching to iMusician? We are happy to assist you with assisting, and it isn't quite as difficult as you might think. So our support team is here to help. And if you want to send them an email, I believe one of my colleagues can share the information here in the chat, but all you need to do is provide the information about your releases that are distributed via another distributor. And you can initiate a takedown with them, and we will be happy to facilitate getting your music up on the platforms in a seamless transition so that your music remains up. And yeah, happy to assist with you there, Esteban. Cool. So I think that about rounds it out. I know if anybody has any more questions, you can obviously, like I said, message us on Instagram, Facebook. If you're rewatching this on YouTube, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section below. But yeah, again, super happy to have everybody here. Obviously, a really international community based on where everyone was mentioning where they're from earlier, and happy that we could elaborate on things that we have coming at iMusician, give you a bit of background on both us and Beatport and what we both have coming. And before you go, don't forget to bookmark our Beatport guide that I mentioned earlier. It's for artists and labels. Really helpful to kind of look back on in terms of distributing your music, registering your label, customizing your profile, and generally putting together an overall Beatport strategy. It really helps you kind of build out your fan base, get discovered, and kind of grow your career as a DIY artist. So as we'll be hosting more webinars from here, I'd love to ask if any of you would be interested in a webinar on Beatport Link and other Beatport features such as Hype. Yeah, let us know in the chat here. Definitely be covering a lot more topics as we enter 2022. That's another element of iMusician that we have coming is more YouTube content. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel that I believe was linked in the chat earlier, but we'll do that again here. Yeah, looks like a resounding yes for all things Beatport. So definitely a lot of exciting stuff with Link and Hype coming out. So all of us here at iMusician are excited about that, but excited to collaborate further and see kind of this exciting future for DJ culture and the possibilities for bringing it into your home and into the club. Well, great. Happy to hear that everybody's excited about more Beatport related webinars. Definitely keep more of those in the pipeline. And again, stay tuned. If you haven't signed up to our mailing list, you can do that. You can just sign up for free for iMusician if you haven't checked us out. That will also keep you in the loop for anything we have coming in regards to webinars, guides, tutorials, and anything to help you out. Also curious if anyone would be interested on a webinar on promotion. Like I mentioned, we could definitely do an entire hour-long or even longer thing on promotion and how to get noticed and how to build out your fan base. So again, looks like a resounding yes there. So more webinar content coming from us. We'll definitely be covering a lot more promotional related content. We can also point you to our guides already. In the meantime, we have a lot of really helpful content on our website that will walk you through a release strategy, generally how to build out anything from a music video to a YouTube channel to getting playlisted via independent playlists. There's a lot of the stuff that we mentioned here. We have a bit more in depth on our blog. So definitely recommend checking that out if you haven't already. And lastly, I would love to know how everyone heard about this webinar. Was it via email, social media, from a friend, or anywhere else? Yeah, you can let us know in the chat or in this poll here. So awesome. Nice to see a nice array of social media, email, other. Glad to see the words being spread. So super happy that you all made it regardless of where you came from, how you found us. Happy that you've discovered iMusician or have been part of our community already. Happy to have you back. And again, yeah, stay tuned. A lot more exciting stuff coming from our end as well as Beatport. So more collaboration there. And yeah,
absolutely.
So
all the best. And yes, as Nick said, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And I hope you enjoyed the webinar.
Cool. Yeah, I guess, yeah. So on behalf of all of us, my friends backstage, want to thank everybody for attending, and super happy and thankful for Steve to hop on tonight. Really helpful diving into everything from Beatport. So yeah, looking forward to more collaborations in the future. And we hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you all again very soon for one of those webinars that we just mentioned. Feel free to let us know any other topics you'd like us to cover in the future. Again, hit us with a DM on Instagram, comments on Facebook, respond to a newsletter, anything of that nature, and we'll get back to you. On that note, looking forward to seeing all the music that you guys put out into the world, and we hope that you have a good evening, and we hope to see you again soon.
Bye, everyone. Bye.